Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to this, your Aries December 2023 reading and forecast. Hi, I'm Nigel Saint James, clairvoyant. Well, we have a very interesting deck this month. It's a deck which has a sub-Saharan African theme throughout the artwork, mainly centered around West Africa. So African people or people of African heritage will definitely be able to identify with it on an emotional basis. But I suspect that pretty well everybody is going to identify with this on an emotional basis because the imagery is stark. It's beautifully painted. It's quite artistic. And I think you'll enjoy it. But nevertheless, why don't you tell me in the comments below whether you like the deck or not? There is no right or wrong answer. Now, of course, I've done a number of one-on-one clairvoyant readings for people from different countries around the world over the course of the last month, and it's been great to see you. I've also done a number of healings as well. Now, the readings last for an hour, but generally they tend to go more than an hour, I find. The healings, and of course I have to charge for readings, and at the end of the video, check out the information that's in the description box below. Now, healing is something which I have to do, if you understand what I mean, and I'm to receive no reward for it. So that means that you are very warmly invited to contact me if you feel that you need some healing, whether it be physical or emotional. Then get hold of me, and because I always set aside time each day to conduct the healings, and healings are free, and there's no obligation. You won't be sold or recommended anything whatsoever. So don't feel embarrassed, don't feel reticent. Get hold of me if you would like a healing. Now let's see what there is in store for you, shall we? You know there are no video advertisements in this reading, so you get to go through all of it in its entirety without video interruption. And great to see the subscribers again. It's always good to see you. Let's see what there is. And here we have the Six of Blades. Then, see, the suits have got different names to them, don't they? Which is got something to do with the cultures that the art derives from. The Seven of Blades. Gee, the Six and the Seven of Blades. That's very interesting. What's down here? See what there is, shall we? As I say, if you do feel you would like some healing, get hold of me. It's done over FaceTime or Skype, unless you happen to live in my home city, of course. And similarly with the readings as well. Young Gourd. Now, gourd, I suppose, is a cup. Gourds are things that hold liquid, aren't they? There is the Nine of Blades. Lots of blades, lots of thoughts going through your head this month, coming up to a lot of different festivities for people of different religious and cultural backgrounds. Now here we go here, and it is finally the Star. Well, it doesn't get any better than that. So come, as our usual practice, come and sit down here next to me. You and I will have a good close look at the artwork on these cards together while I do the reading for you. Just while I'm picking up the energies here, I often look at small channels, and I found one called Ministry of Tarot. And it's operated by a lady whose style, of course, is very different to mine, but nevertheless someone who I think is authentic. So at the end of this video, maybe you might like to check out Ministry of Tarot. Okay, I've got it here. Let's have a look at this one first. And let's have a look at this Seven of Blades. That's here. Let's have a look. There we go. Now in this Seven of Blades, we see somebody here who is really attempting to run away from or to take advantage of their current situation to get what they desire. Now below, as you can see in front here, these dark figures, there are a group of people here who are unaware that they are now defenseless as the person above escapes their weapons, or with their weapons by the looks of it. Now, the one who has gathered the swords could also be seen as someone who is advancing their own cause
despite their circumstances. Now, the group left behind may have been captors. They may have been imprisoning this person, and they are no longer in control of the situation. Now, where the card is positioned and in connection with the other cards here, the astrology of it is that of the moon ruling the third decan of Aquarius, that 9th to the 18th of February. Well, the emotions of the moon and this number 7, which has a mystical association with me with the planet of Venus. Well, together the moon and Venus, they cloud the mental qualities of Aquarius. And so the Aquarius energy of detachment and thinking things through rigorously is weakened. And you might find that there is a moment here where you have a lack of clarity, where you feel ineffectual, you feel inept, or there could be some mental procrastination. You might find that you are just doing enough, just coasting along and working beneath your own standards, really. There's a sense of discouragement that's here and some sort of negative expectations. And if I can use the planets as some way of providing a further example of this, if we look at Neptune, it's sort of saying that everything seems to be clouded by a film or veil. I just don't know what I really want. Now, this is connected with this 9 of Blades, which we'll get to in a second. Venus, of course, is saying that maybe what you want is just too good to be true. Mars says, I haven't the energy, there's no time, or perhaps I'm already too old. Jupiter is saying, that's too much good at once. I could never cope with so much success. Then Mercury comes into the picture and says, but I just can't get the ideas across properly. And Saturn would say, it's simply too much trouble. It takes too long. Well, these, I think, literally destructive thoughts, and I say it's linked to this 9 of Blades, they don't need to be taken seriously by you at all. The reality is really very different to what your present perception of it is, and soon you'll be able to laugh over your own doubts. Look, your fears have nothing to do with reality, so wake up and see what's really happening. Now, ask yourself, in what areas of your life do you bring yourself down with your own limited ideas? What are your restrictive belief systems? But say this to yourself, I master all the skills and means needed to achieve that which I long for most deeply. Now, I said it was connected to this 9 of Blades here, so let's have a look at it and see what it has to say. Very interesting image, isn't it? Let's have a closer look at it, shall we? Well, what have we got going on here? Do you know, I really have the sense here that this 9 of Blades represents the things that haunt you in the night. Your worst fears plague you, bringing mental and physical stress. Now, most of the time, your worries are imprisoned pains and guilt that you have held onto. Many other times, they are just a product of external circumstances you believe that you can't escape from, but you can. And ultimately, the stress and anxiety will take their toll, diminishing your life and your vitality. Now, before I talk about the solution, let's look at what the astrology is and why this card is doing this. It is because it is Mars ruling the second decan of Gemini, that 1st to the 11th of June. Now, the one-pointed nature of Mars just doesn't sit well with the scattered energy of Gemini. And I've noticed over the years that Mars in Gemini people, they can get fired up and they use words as their weapons of cruelty. Now with the number 9 here, I have a mystical association of the moon, which can be quite passive, and certainly it is no match against the aggressive onslaught of Mars. So there's a cruelty to yourself going on here, a self-accusation, a punishing of yourself, a heartless passion, passive resistance maybe. Look, I'd even go so far as to say, and I say this with respect, with a sort of a martyrdom here. But the number 9 represents the cycle of returns in numerology. It is the loop. And here in this suit of blades, it refers to the negative thought loop. And these things can, of course, turn into emotional distress as well, can't they? Your thoughts can have an effect on your emotions. These things come to you and they recur. Remember this, that you know your Achilles heel better than anybody else. You know how to talk yourself down better than anybody else, more effectively than anybody else. Now this is a sense here of a cruelty which is directed at yourself. And it is indicating a tendency to put yourself down with immense energy. And that's the Mars aspect of it. Now, destructive accusations or words that have been made by parents or teachers in your childhood, will they continue, perhaps, with undiminished harshness to affect you? But now, you, in a sense, yourself, have taken over the role of accuser, accusing yourself. I very much do, and I must say it, that this is pointing to a tendency to put yourself down cruelly. You'll have to recognize and fully see this behavior pattern before you'll be able to overcome it. Now, who judged you earlier? And how do you now condemn yourself? And are you ready to forget parents, others, and yourself, and understand that you are loved simply because you are the way you are? The thing about these negative thoughts is this, is that you lie down on the ground, if you like, and the negative thoughts that you bring to yourself, they come in on top of you as if they are bombs dropping in on top of you, and you are the passive victim of the thoughts. Well, what you must do is this, is when you find a negative thought, what you do is you challenge the thought and you ask yourself 2 questions with respect to the thought. The first question is this: what is the purpose of this thought? The second question is, how is this thought behaving? What is the purpose of this thought? And how is this thought behaving? And you will find that rather than being passive and lying on the ground, you go to the top of the hill, and these thoughts have to make their way up the hill to you, where you challenge them, and you say, justify yourself to me, and you'll find that they are unable to do so, because you'll see that they are wisps coming in and taking on a power that they do not deserve, nor do they have. But you do get through this, I'm pleased to say, as you should do. Of all people, you, the brilliant Aries. Let's have a look here. All right. Now here we have the 6 of Blades. And I see Aquarius around here again. Let me get to that in just a second. Let's see what I can briefly make of this image, but of course you're entitled to make of it whatever you do. Now, you do go through the process of picking up the pieces. See how this person's picking up a whole lot of different blades, broken swords and things here. Now there are some things which are better left where they are, but here you see that carrying these sharp broken pieces, you see what it can really do to you. Now, with all these sharp chunks of blades that you choose to carry, and you'll find that you simply end up hurting yourself. You'll bleed out and wonder why you are no longer able to have the wherewithal to keep going. Now, the two swords here, if you look at these two swords, I think they remain, and they remain whole, and they are more than enough to remind you where you've come from, and they protect you on your way to where you are going. Now here I have the planet of Mercury coming into the second decan of Aquarius this time, 30th of January to the 9th of February. Well, the air planet of Mercury is now finding itself in the fixed sign of air, which is Aquarius. Now, some people think that Mercury is exalted in Aquarius. I'm not necessarily convinced of that myself. But what this does do with Mercury in Aquarius is it highlights the intellectual, the mental qualities of this card, but mental qualities for the better. We have overcome these dark thoughts. Now your thoughts are becoming positive and constructive. Now, Aquarius is an air sign, which is detached and intellectual by nature. And Mercury's ability to analyze and bring a clear perspective going forward comes to you now. And this is suggesting to me that something of a somewhat detached yet balanced assessment of a situation is needed. You need to analyze something without bias and too much emotion to get the best result. You will have the ability to analyze, to bring your ideas together, and you'll have something of an all-encompassing vision now, an all-embracing understanding, and you'll have objectivity. You know, Mercury is one of the greatest gifts for Aquarius because Mercury's ability to analyze brings clarity to perspectives on your future. Now, the perceptions that you obtain are not only now seen and recognized, but they can be effectively communicated. The most varied ideas and visions, they come together at one point, and this allows for a new all-encompassing vision of things which bring the rose of realization into bloom. I'd say that by this time, you have the ability to perceive and understand things on different levels and from different perspectives. Your understanding of things unites many different aspects. Now, what are and where are the ruts in your life? This is the time when you must trust your insight and communicate in a way that others will understand, and allow the rose to unfold, and say this to yourself now: the rose of recognition blossoms in my heart. Now let's see what was in this center here, shall we? And let me have a look at this face. Yes, I think I'm picking up your energy, young man. Now these court cards, which this is, could be a male or it could be a female, because they are, the courts, interchangeable regardless of the gender that they are expressed to be. But I'll refer to it as a man for the obvious reasons, because this is a masculine looking face to me. And what do I see in your eyes? Well, I see this airy and intellectual aspect of water. Someone who is passionate, sensual, sexual, artistic, and very, very charming. Now, when you get air and water together, you can get fog. And what that means is that maybe you don't necessarily see clearly who this person is, or you may be putting up a smoke screen to other people. Now, you understand that your mind and your emotions have to come into harmony in order for the soul urge to be expressed effectively. Well, I think he desires deep intimacy, this person, but he's got to work towards self-mastery, fearlessly facing the depths of his emotions. Now, interestingly, I get a lot of Leo around here at the moment, and I get a lot of Cancer as well. I think that this is referring to someone who is swift and strong, quite impulsive. Maybe there's a secret violence there. Generous, though, and with a sense of humor. Intensity. I do see a blossoming love and intuitive creativity, and you coming out of the darkness and into light. This is someone who personifies the mastery of intuitive creativity. All senses are geared towards being used for creative purposes. Now, he trusts his intuition, and he can surprise people with his original ideas and solutions. Nothing can hinder or limit this creative flow. The blazing fire of creativity around him is what keeps him in motion. Oh, I'm just getting an influence here from Scorpio as well, and also of Libra here. Why is that the case? I think it's because there's a detachment which comes from the air sign of Libra, and yet a great intensity from the sign of Scorpio. There's desire, wishes, craving. And this is a person, I think, who is completely without conscience in the ordinary sense of the word and can be perfectly ruthless. And this is someone who cares intensely for power and for information and for putting themselves forward. Now, your wishes and desires at the moment must be understood and recognized. They are the fundamental driving force in your life. Now, it's only possible to use and master them if you are wide awake and alert. And instead of suppressing them, you can use them in the process of becoming more aware. Now, when seen in this way, they are a vehicle that helps you journey into the world within. This suggests also a person, and it could be someone else, as I say, but this suggests someone who may appear calm, but that masks a passion and an intensity which can make the individual volatile. Now, you will have a lot to offer during this period, an immense ability, but make sure that you can be relied upon, because this person here that I see, and it could be someone else, is not someone that you can rely upon, because his main responsibility is to himself. He can be secretive, hiding his deepest desires. Yeah. They can shed insight, this person, into other people's lives, as they've usually been there and done all of that themselves. But at worst, they can be cruel, selfish, and reckless. Now, the information that's coming through to me is that you must accept your sexual needs and passions and live them out with awareness. And you'll discover a lot in this process. Give yourself up totally to the experience and observe yourself in it. Now, what secret wishes are you unwilling to admit to? So spend some time each day visualizing yourself with your desires, but without getting lost in them, and say this to yourself: I will now live out my sexual desires, because this makes me more vital and fulfilled. And that then takes us finally, I think, is it finally? Yes, it is, here to the star. Is that right? You'll see this in just a second, maybe. I'll pull this down. This is interesting. You see that Roman numeral there? That says, I'm sure that says 18. Well, 18 is actually the number, major arcana, for the moon and not for the star. So that's a intriguing typo on this deck, which, who knows, may make it valuable over time. But let's have a look at this image, and, well, it's quite straightforward. I don't think I need to go into it other than to say this, that now you see the star is guiding you to a place of hope for a better tomorrow. In this place, you can close your eyes and imagine the new possibilities that are now ready to be birthed. The deep, fresh waters wash over your feet, like the ritual washing that blessed those before you. Bright roses bloom as a symbol of new love and passion for life. And you can now breathe a breath of fresh air as you take time to make room for gratitude and renewed optimism. And I have Aquarius here as well this time. Saturn ruling Aquarius, but Saturn in a very constructive form for you. Now, Aquarius is all about the individual and uniqueness, and yet it has an overall humanitarian outlook. Well, the star shares these qualities in that it is reminding you about the divinity and uniqueness within you, while encouraging you to be a pipe to bring down divine energy to achieve your highest potential. This is a period of great inspiration, the crystallization of ideas, self-recognition, a radiating clear vision, and a great trust in yourself and an increase of your self-esteem. These cards have been banished. And there's a connection to universal intelligence, hope, happiness, opportunities, optimism, cosmic blessings. They all come together with you now. There is a new crystal clear vision that brings form and purpose to that which only a moment ago, perhaps, was just a vague impression. And you gain a more penetrating view into the boundless potential of your development. The power of inspiration you receive gives wings to your soul and lets apparently impossible things manifest in marvelous ways. Now, encouragement is being given to you that you may have had some testing times in the past, but now it's time to move forward with renewed hope and live an inspired life in which you can express yourself fully. Let your star rise. You will be tested and recognized by the fruits you bear, and say, my creative powers of imagination and my connection to all-encompassing consciousness show me the way to realize my ideas. Great job,
Well,
you.
I told you that was going to be a very interesting deck, didn't I? And I think you'll agree with me that it was. I hope that you enjoyed the artwork as much as I did, and I hope that you enjoyed the reading as much as I did providing it to you. And if you did and you've made it this far, can you do me the great favor of, on the way out, hitting the like button and the subscribe button, because it's good for the YouTube computer, if you understand what I mean. But look, it's been wonderful to see you again. I hope to see you again next month, of course, unless I see you privately in between. But until then, remember one thing, and it is this, that you are a legend. And I look forward to seeing you again next month. And until then, it's bye for now.